What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So a bunch of stuff to go over today because it looks like Nintendo is going to work to have a bit more of a presence at Tokyo Game Show. Not necessarily these backroom dealings or anything. It looks like they're actually going to be pushing some sponsorship money towards indie developers. So that could be interesting after seeing things like Cadence of Hyrule going on right now. Also, it does look like Halo Infinite might not have a battle royale as rumored, but maybe it actually will with the wording that they said. It's interesting there to see. Any information about Halo Infinite is interesting to me, but we're going to go over that later on as well. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. We're going to start today. Actually, quick correction from yesterday. I mentioned that there would be Q&A for the Nintendo investors briefing. However, it looks like Nintendo is mostly going to be releasing their full financial report for this past fiscal quarter, like a slideshow most likely, with a bunch of information, and then updated release dates generally in like the large sheets that they send out to investors about everything. Most likely they will have Q&A as usual in June during their annual like gathering of the investors and everything. So look forward to it there. We're also going to start today actually with Days Gone, because Days Gone, well, it's coming out at the end of this week. And it's looking okay. I'm still a little concerned about how the game looks overall, because I think it looks kind of generic and kind of like Last of Us, but it is a larger game, and it's over 60 gigabytes already. It looks like patch 1.03 is going to be over 17 gigabytes. The game's going to be like 80 gigabytes right away. And apparently this is for bug fixes and issues that they have to resolve. Apparently the download's actually over 20 gigabytes, but of course, generally the PlayStation will have to download extra and then we'll actually install it and then delete the rest. But yeah, it looks like the game itself is going to be over 80 gigabytes day one. I've downloaded the patch. And after seeing some of the videos that were posted with some of the bug fixes or issues in the game, bugs that need to be fixed, and I mean, I kind of get it. It looks like there are some bugs with the game. However, I'm gonna get it later on this week when it comes out. I believe it comes out Friday, and check it out and see what I think of it for myself. But it is an open world zombie style game. We'll see. I'm hoping it's good. Visually, it looks good. But how does it play? How long is it? What do we get out of it? Those are some questions I need to actually see for myself. Also, Persona 5, the Royal, and Persona 5S. They're going to be talked about this week. We already know that, right? They're essentially announcing whatever Persona 5S is, which is either, I guess, the Switch version, or the Stadia version, or it's a fighting game, or it's an arena game, or who knows what this thing is. But they're going to be announcing that, and then, of course, more information on Persona 5, the Royal. Now, we're going to go over very quickly when you can tune in to see these, because they will apparently be live streaming the concert, which will probably be a lot of stuff that's not the Royal and not Persona 5S, so I wouldn't tune in right away even, although I guess you could, because the times are pretty early in the morning or late at night, depending on where you are. So the 24th, it's going to start the live stream at 6 a.m. Eastern Time or 3 a.m. Pacific Time. So 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific, and then the same deal on the 25th. You'll have the same early morning schedule, 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific Time, but you can tune in and see what's going on, or I guess you can just let them announce it and see a bunch of places report on it. The big question now is, what is Persona 5S? We kind of understand what Persona 5 the Royal is, right? It's a new story around the Persona 5 game that a lot of people already bought on the PS4, but what is Persona 5S? That's the big question, and I guess we'll find out this week. And finally, for fans of Kingdom Hearts 3 that said it was too easy, Critical Mode. That is actually out today. They put this tweet out here as you're seeing. That says, "Greetings, it's been a while since I last posted. Spring is here, and I hope everyone is doing well. Kingdom Hearts 3 long-awaited Critical Mode is available as a free update tomorrow." That would be today. We've changed things up from the previous game, so I hope you enjoy, and that is from Nomura. Now, the question here is, what are they going to do with Critical Mode? Because, of course, Critical Mode is the much more difficult mode. It's generally above Proud Mode, but usually what they would do in the past is they would do things like double damage to you, and you would do half damage to all of your enemies. But they say they did things a bit different here, and I'm curious how they kind of amplify your enemies and the bosses and everything. And I'm also curious if there's anything extra for beating it in Critical Mode. I'm sure plenty of people are going to find out pretty quickly by blasting through it as fast as they can to see if there's any extra little bit to the story or anything, but it took them a little while to get this one done, so maybe there is something there to see. But for people who thought Kingdom Hearts 3 was a little too easy, this should set you straight with some challenge. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're actually going to start today with GB Studio. Now, this is something that was being kicked around Twitter, and it kind of made the rounds some forums yesterday, and I think even a little bit the day before, but this is actually pretty cool because it's a way for you to make Game Boy games without having to program necessarily or code. Now, a lot of people might have great ideas for games, but they're usually stuck when you have to start learning all kinds of programming languages and how to code and everything. That can be a bit of an issue. I think that's why those RPG Maker style games are pretty popular, because you don't really need to have any knowledge when it comes to coding necessarily to create a game. And that's also kind of why you see Steam flooded with a lot of those types of games, because people, if they have an idea, they can make it without having to sit there and type code constantly. But GB Studio is a way for you to make Game Boy games in that same way. There's a full trailer that was put out that's pretty cool, and this actually is a visual game builder, no programming knowledge required. You can design your graphics in any editor that you would like a Photoshop, for example, and then you can kind of make a 2D JRPG style adventure game. What's really cool about this, it's all supported by Mac OS, Windows, Linux. What's really cool about this is when you're done and you want to test it, it actually spits out a Game Boy ROM file for you then to take and play in an emulator. So you're actually like playing a Game Boy game then with the game that you've created. That is really, really cool. I believe it also has a way to built-in way for you to test as well, and even in web browsers and everything, that'll also work according to them. This is awesome. I'm curious to see if people get really into this and create some cool Game Boy games. This has kind of been, there was an NES a programmer like this, or a way to develop NES games without programming knowledge. This is really neat to see this for the Game Boy. It's completely free. Like, people just go download it and try it out for themselves. I'll be curious to see what people come up with. It seems like it's all top-down right now from what I can tell. I'll be curious if they do anything with like 2D side-scrolling from like the side and everything, but either way, some JRPGs apparently can come out of this, and I'll be curious to see what people come up with. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo at Tokyo Game Show. Now, Tokyo Game Show will take place at the end of September. It's like, I think this year it's September 20th, the 22nd, somewhere in there. And generally we like to see all kinds of cool stuff from Japanese developers there. It's generally pretty fun. But one interesting thing is we usually get a lot of indie games showing up there as well. And it looks like Nintendo is actually going to be outright sponsoring events, like entire events for these indie developers to go there and show up free of charge apparently and show off their games. And I like to think of this as a way for Nintendo to kind of scout the talent, if you will, right? But let's actually go over very quickly what's happening there. Is they sent out like a full press release and everything about this to kind of announce Nintendo's involvement here. And this is pretty cool. So there is an indie game area selection booth, and that's part of what Nintendo is sponsoring here. It's an area of free to charge, so people can basically show up there with their indie developed games and actually show them off there. Then there's Sense of Wonder Night 2019, which is a contest to kind of pick out the excellent game ideas from the different developers in the selection booth. And this is just a really cool idea. Now, they do pre-screen, I guess, the developers that go into selection booth, so there is at least, you have to kind of qualify for it, but this is a really neat thing to see, and it does make you wonder about Nintendo when it comes to these indie developers, because we saw Cadence of Hyrule, right? And people automatically said, wow, Nintendo's letting an indie developer work with them with the Zelda IP. That's a big deal, right? From what we heard, it sounded like Miyamoto really liked it along with Aonuma and really liked Cadence of Hyrule, so they want, or the game before that they really wanted to work with and create Cadence of Hyrule. And that's kind of how that came to be. But if you go to this event, Tokyo Game Show, you're sponsoring the event, you're definitely interested in these indie developers. And, well, Nintendo right now with the Switch is working very well with indie developers as they keep selling tons of copies of their games. And so many of them are flocking to the Switch right now. It only makes sense for Nintendo to continue kind of scouting talent. And if they can get some extra use out of some of their IPs with some of these indie developers, why not? This is basically a way to go and like basically go to like a farm system that you would have in like sports, like baseball or something, and kind of check out some of the talent. So it's pretty cool to see what they come up with here. But the fact that Nintendo is putting out the money to get some of these indie developers there is it's pretty interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on Tokyo Game Show. Next up, let's talk about Mortal Kombat 11. I actually checked it out yesterday in a video that you can check out where I kind of went over it, and I talked about a big issue that I have with the game. which kind of came down to microtransactions and what appeared to be an artificial grind that had to do with balancing issues when it came to what you got when you completed events, like different towers that you have, and it felt like you weren't really getting a lot. And I realized there was a store a button press away, and it made me think, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. They want us to buy this stuff, these currency pieces, gold, and there's like 4 to 5 different currencies in the game. But it does sound like they're going to at least be doing an update to maybe fix some of this. It's hard to say. There's not really a time or anything on the update. This is actually what they said, saying, we're continuing optimizing Mortal Kombat 11 based on player feedback. That said, we have seen that there are some players that are struggling with progression, the Towers of Time, and with the crypt. So we do have a fix rolling out ASAP to address our players who are having those problems, to address balance, and to address the rewards you get from playing. This was from Tyler Lansdowne, who's the community manager at NetherRealm, and this was actually on Shao Kahn and Frost Combat Cast. And I do question how quick that's going to come out, and because they might hold it off a little bit for the initial push of the game, because they're going to get money from microtransactions and everything. But the problem with this is it's WB, and we've seen artificial grind in some of their games, like Shadow of War, for example, that they eventually took out. Probably when people weren't playing it as much, they took that grind out. So if you go play it now, you get towards the end, there's not this weird artificial grind that pops up that makes you feel like you have to buy a little extra from their shop to get past it. But the issue here is you don't get really a lot of gold or other pieces. You unlock stuff as you play, which is cool, like gear and everything, but people like going through the crypt. They mention the crypt here specifically, and it does feel like you don't really have a lot when you go through. It feels like you have to grind for quite a while as you get further in the crypt to open any chests. So I hope they do put out this patch. They say ASAP. I hope it's soon. And I hope it does address the issue and make it so that we get more money. Because that right now is the only issue I see with this. You feel compelled because our grind is artificial almost, it feels like. But hey, some people will play it and never have an issue with it because they'll be playing online and they'll just have fun with the game. And if they unlock stuff, cool. I'm curious if some people just never go to the crypt because they're just playing online constantly. But eventually you'll look through some of the gear and it says, go to the crypt to get it. So again, it pushes you to the crypt. You don't have enough, so then it pushes you to the R2 button for the store. And we'll see if they do fix that a bit here with this patch. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Halo Infinite and the Battle Royale mode that has been rumored. Brad Sams actually made a video on it, talking about how he's heard that there was some sort of Battle Royale in the works for Halo Infinite. And Halo Infinite's still a mystery to us. We saw a very brief cinematic trailer for it in like the slipstream engine and everything that they're talking about, which is cool because Halo has kind of needed a new engine for a while, and it sounds like they built one from the ground up. That's why we didn't get a Halo game, this past year or so. They're kind of off schedule now. It was like every 3 years or something for a while, and they have missed that. So we're getting Halo Infinite. Seems like it might end up being a games as a service game, but Battle Royale, I mean, they could definitely do it in Halo, and it's popular right now, but after these rumors came out, Frank O'Connor actually took to Reset Era, saying this. I haven't watched the video, so if I am misinterpreting the headline as Halo Infinite is launching as a Halo Battle Royale mode, this is still not the case. You can probably make your own Battle Royale mode in Forge, even right now though. It's a mode, not a genre. So they're not even like recognizing it as a genre, which, okay, I mean, it even goes on to talk about Apex Legends and Fortnite, both technically being Battle Royale games or modes, but they're pretty different, really. I mean, if you really play them, they don't feel the same at all. Fortnite has all this building stuff, and then, of course, in Apex Legends, you have classes and everything. But I do wonder if they're calling it that because they have something similar in mind to a Battle Royale, right? I mean, it would work in Halo. The time to kill is, it takes a while, right, to kill your opponents in Halo generally. When it was compared to Call of Duty back in the day, Halo 3 versus Call of Duty 4, you would die so fast in Call of Duty 4 compared to Halo 3. So it would probably work right away. And they even talk about how you could probably build your own in Forge, which, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, free for all, one life, and big map and everything. Yeah, I guess you could do that. So I feel like they have an idea of what the Battle Royale mode is right now. And I don't think it's going to resemble completely what we know Battle Royale is right now, but I do think they have something in mind that is going to be similar to Battle Royale, just not exactly the same. And this just seems like him playing around with words and saying, oh, it's not exactly Battle Royale. But we still need to find out more. E3 should tell us more about Halo Infinite, as we're hearing that there will be something there. Gameplay, more of a trailer, something. But we also hear that game is going to be a next generation game. So we probably won't even see Halo Infinite until like 2020. It might even be holiday 2020. So we still got a while. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Nintendo at Tokyo Game Show. Do you think they're sponsoring these indie events? Really just check out some of the other indie developers and see what they have. Maybe scoop up a really talented developer to work with, or see if they can talk them a bit and get them maybe as an exclusive thing on the Switch. Seems like Nintendo's really invested in those indie developers, which is pretty cool. And then also, what about Halo Infinite? Is it getting a Battle Royale mode? I think it'll have one that's similar, but just maybe not exactly like how we know Halo or Battle Royale to be. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.